Lubbock, the place to be. Built by the visionaries that chose to plant their roots, make the hub their home. Cultivated by the innovators today, who continue to grow and transform our future. Lubbock is the place to be.
I wanted to start my own business immediately. The longest I've ever held a regular job is 6 months. Outside of the time that I taught at South Plains College, I was there for about 9 years. But other than that, I've owned my own business my entire life. When I very first started, I didn't have a lot of gear. I had saved up some money and bought a 16-track analog reel-to-reel tape machine. And this is kind of when digital hit, so everybody sold their smaller tape machines and bought these digital rigs. And I went, I want that old tape. So I would just take this tape machine around to people's houses, and I had some microphones and a mixer, and it wasn't a lot of gear, but I always believed that it wasn't about the equipment. It was about your ears and your creativity. If you could make a record really well with not a lot of gear, you can imagine what you can make when you finally do have all the toys. So that's how I started. I even at one point had a company called Caravan Productions. It was a Dodge Caravan with a 16-track tape machine and a snake in the back that I would take out to people's recording spaces at their rehearsal halls. So I started pretty creative. I've done literally everything. I've taught guitar, I've composed music, I toured in bands and all of that. And while I was playing in bands, I started working in recording studios pretty young. And I kind of watched the process and fell in love with it and decided that someday I would own a studio. Well, that takes some resources that I didn't have as a young man, but I started collecting recording gear and started actually recording in people's houses. And we were recording a record in a guy's house, literally very close to here, right off of 27th Street. One of the guys ran in, the drummer ran in and said, "This is so much fun, it's better than going to an amusement park." And I went, that's what I'll call my studio someday. I think my favorite project I've ever gotten to work on in my entire life is Metropolis Electro. A few years back, the Louise Hopkins Underwood Center for the Arts, LUCA, here in town, called us and asked if we would compose a soundtrack to a silent film and perform it with the film. And I think they were really thinking, oh, they'll just play some of their music while the film plays in the background, and that would be really cool. And they said, we want you to do Phantom of the Opera. I don't know if you've ever seen the black and white Phantom of the Opera, but it's not the most musical of films. There's dancing in it, but none of it seems to be in time or any of that. And there had also been a blockbuster movie that came out of Hollywood of that, and you can't compete with that, so let's not do that. So I said, we'll do it on one condition, that you let us do Metropolis. And Metropolis came out in 1927. It was a German expressionist film, and it actually influenced me as an undergrad when I studied visual art at Texas Tech. So my wife and I actually composed a complete new soundtrack to that film and performed it with a 24-piece ensemble that included a chamber orchestra, a rock band, a DJ, a choir, perform it live, synced with the film. We were really honored to do that with LUCA, and that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I'm still working on the studio recordings of it because it's 146 minutes of contiguous music. That's 4 albums. So we're actually getting close. Maybe someday it will actually be released. But we did perform it live with the ensemble and sold out all the shows we did. It was really an incredible experience. It's amazing what I've gotten to experience in the last, 13 or 14 years since I've opened the studio. When I first started out, I just wanted to find a way to survive and to eat and to keep the doors open. But I had some very specific goals. One of my major goals was to make a hit record. within a decade. And at the 8-year mark, I had a record that I produced make it to number 2 on the iTunes country charts, and it made it into Billboard magazine, and really kind of helped launch the career for that particular band and also for me as a studio. I look back and just think how fortunate I am that I get to be in this room every day and make music for people who I dearly care about and make songs and art that I really feel passionate about. It's not lost on me how fortunate I am. Lubbock is a really amazing place for creativity. I think there's just something in the water, or maybe it's in the geographic isolation that we have, or the fact that we have more sky. But there has always just been this underground creative thread that percolates under this town. And it's still there, and it's alive and well. It's a great time to be in an artistic business in Lubbock, Texas. It's a really great place.